The Genesis creation story, found in the opening chapters of the Bible, serves as a foundational narrative for many religious traditions, particularly within Judaism and Christianity. It describes the process by which God created the universe over the course of 6 days, culminating in the creation of humanity. This ancient text has long been a source of inspiration, moral guidance, and philosophical pondering, setting the stage for countless interpretations and discussions across religious, cultural, and academic spheres. Its significance to the main topic of the Genesis creation story, scientific interpretations and theories, lies in its enduring influence on how individuals and societies conceptualize the universe's origin and humanity's role within it. One real-world application of the Genesis creation story is its influence on ethical considerations and stewardship of the environment. Many proponents of this narrative argue for a moral duty to care for the earth, as humans are depicted as stewards of God's creation. Another application is its role in educational frameworks, particularly in debates around creationism versus evolution in school curricula. Select regions advocate for the inclusion of the Genesis account in science classes as an alternative perspective on the origins of life. Supporters of the Genesis creation story often include religious leaders and scholars who view it as a divinely inspired account that offers profound insights into human nature and morality. They argue that this narrative provides a sense of purpose and order, enriching personal and communal life through a shared cosmological vision. However, the Genesis creation story is not without its challenges and controversies. The primary contention arises from its perceived conflict with scientific theories, such as the Big Bang and evolution, which present a different timeline and mechanism for the universe's development. Critics, particularly those from atheistic or scientific perspectives, often view the story as myth or allegory rather than a literal historical account. Despite these differing views, the Genesis narrative inevitably influences discussions of science and religion. Its presence challenges both domains to engage in dialogue, prompting consideration of how faith and empirical evidence can be reconciled or at least coexist. Thus, exploring this creation story opens avenues that connect belief systems, ethical imperatives, educational approaches, and scientific inquiry, demonstrating that it is not only a religious artifact, but a catalyst for broader interdisciplinary exploration. The concept of historical context and interpretations in the Genesis creation story involves understanding how cultural, religious, and historical influences have shaped the traditional narratives found in the book of Genesis, as well as how these interpretations have evolved through time. It serves as a gateway to explore the varied readings and understandings of the text, which have influenced both theological and scientific perspectives on human origins and the universe. This point is significant because it forms the foundation for scientific interpretations and theories, attempting to reconcile or critique religious narratives with scientific knowledge. For example, during the Enlightenment, when science began to challenge traditional beliefs, interpretations of Genesis started to shift. Many began to view the Genesis creation story as allegory rather than literal truth, allowing for a harmonious relationship between religious thought and the emerging scientific explanations of natural phenomena. Another example is the intelligent design movement, which seeks to find scientific evidence for the action of a designer and is rooted in interpreting the Genesis story as an account of a purposeful creation. This movement often finds itself at odds with purely naturalistic explanations of evolution. Opinions supporting the importance of historical context in interpreting Genesis argue that understanding the original cultural and historical backdrop of the Genesis account can reveal its intended lessons and significance, rather than having it serve as a literal scientific account. Theologians and scholars, like John Walton, emphasize the importance of reading these ancient texts within their original ancient Near Eastern context to glean meaningful insights. However, the concept is not without its challenges and controversies. Literal interpretations of Genesis often clash with both historical critical approaches and scientific perspectives. Creationism, for example, presents a viewpoint that insists on a literal interpretation, maintaining that the earth and universe were created by God in 6 days as described. This standpoint often conflicts with the scientific consensus on topics such as the age of the earth and evolution. The historical context and interpretations of Genesis are deeply interwoven with other aspects of the main topic, influencing perspectives in both religious and scientific communities. As interpretations have evolved, they have sparked dialogue between faith and science, driving scholars and scientists alike to explore how ancient narratives can coexist with or inform modern scientific understanding. This interaction continues to influence ongoing debates about faith, science, and the complexity of human understanding. The concept of comparative analysis with scientific theories involves examining how the Genesis creation story, as presented in religious texts, aligns or contrasts with contemporary scientific theories about the origin and development of the universe and life on Earth. This examination is critical as it seeks to bridge the gap between faith-based narratives and empirical scientific evidence, offering a deeper understanding of our origins from different perspectives. The significance of this comparative analysis lies in its ability to foster dialogue between science and religion, two fields often viewed as conflicting. It provides an opportunity to explore whether and how these domains can coexist and complement one another. Such an exploration can enrich both theological understanding and scientific inquiry by highlighting areas of convergence and divergence. A key example of this comparative analysis is the scientific Big Bang theory, which describes the universe's origins as a massive expansion occurring approximately 13.8 billion years ago. In contrast, the Genesis account presents a creation process initiated by a divine being over 6 days. While the timelines differ significantly, some theologians and scientists argue that these accounts can be harmonized when the days are viewed metaphorically as a reflection of vast epochs. Another example is the theory of evolution by natural selection, which explains the diversity of life through gradual changes over millions of years, differing sharply from the Genesis account of separate, distinct creation of life forms. However, some religious scholars see evolution as a possible mechanism of divine creation, viewing it as compatible with a belief in a guiding creative force. Supporters of this integrative view often suggest that science explains the how, while religion addresses the why, emphasizing that both perspectives contribute to a more comprehensive understanding of existence. However, challenges arise due to literal interpretations of Scripture, which conflict with the scientific consensus. This can lead to controversies, particularly when such interpretations influence educational and political arenas, as seen in debates over evolution's place in school curricula. Despite these challenges, this comparative analysis influences other aspects of the Genesis creation story by encouraging reinterpretation and re-evaluation of ancient texts in light of new scientific discoveries. It promotes a dynamic interaction between historical beliefs and modern knowledge, urging both religious and scientific communities to seek common ground. In doing so, it not only enriches the discourse on origins, but also encourages a more nuanced appreciation of the complexities inherent in our quest for truth. The concept, the Big Bang theory and biblical creation, juxtaposes two influential narratives about the origins of the universe. The Big Bang theory describes a scientific explanation proposing that the universe began from an extremely hot and dense singularity, approximately 13.8 billion years ago, and has been expanding ever since. In contrast, biblical creation refers to the account in the book of Genesis, where God creates the world in 6 days, with rest on the seventh. This intersection is significant as it explores the dialogue between scientific understanding and religious beliefs, showing how both perspectives endeavor to answer fundamental questions about existence and beginnings. This comparison holds importance in discussions about the genesis of the universe, as it underscores the diversity of approaches humanity uses to grapple with life's profound questions. It challenges audiences to consider not only empirical evidence and scientific reasoning, but also the influence of cultural and theological interpretations that shape human understanding. One real-world example illustrating the intersection of these narratives is the work of physicist and theologian Dr. John Polkinghorne, who argued that scientific and religious explanations often answer different types of questions, such as how and why, and can be complementary rather than contradictory. Another example is the Vatican's Pontifical Academy of Sciences, which recognizes the Big Bang theory as a plausible description of the universe's origins, while upholding the theological significance of creation as described in Genesis. This reflects a real-world application where science and faith engage in constructive dialogue. Several opinions support linking these views. Many scientists who hold religious beliefs maintain that their faith does not contradict scientific findings, but rather enriches their understanding of the universe. However, controversy persists, with some religious communities rejecting scientific explanations that seem to conflict with literal interpretations of sacred texts. This can lead to challenges in educational settings and public discourse, where debates about science curriculum highlight the ongoing tension between differing worldviews. These discussions influence other aspects of the main topic, such as how people interpret ancient texts or understand the role of science in society. The dialogue between the Big Bang Theory and biblical creation sparks broader conversations about the nature of truth, the limits of human knowledge, and the potential for interdisciplinary exploration. It encourages a more nuanced consideration of how scientific theories and religious beliefs not only interact, but also support a richer, more comprehensive exploration of our origins.